Piece from the Wall Street Journal. Unemployed office workers are having a harder time finding new jobs. This meshes with the data and stories that we've been seeing over the past, really like 9 months, I think, probably since like the start of Q2, in that people are reporting staying on unemployment longer. They're having a harder time finding new work. And this is, I think, the main evidence that we have of the slowdown in the labor market right now, because the unemployment rate, even though it moved up last month, it's kind of stabilized over the last 4 or 5 at least. There's no clear trend there right now. And we're not seeing an uptick in new unemployment claims. It's just people are unemployed
stagnant.
Longer. Yeah.
It's stagnant is the word that I've used a few times now. And, the stats behind this, more than 1.6 million of those jobless workers that are out there. There's 7 million people who are unemployed. 1.6 million are saying that it's taken them at least 6 months. So they've been unemployed for 6 months or more. And that's a big number in recent history. That number's up more than 50% since the end of 2022, that portion of, or that number of workers who have been unemployed for 6 months or more. We're seeing it in a few concentrated areas, but some that I think would find surprising. Like certainly if you work in recruiting for tech, it's been a tough time to find work, but really across the board in a few specific areas, you're not seeing as much hiring. So job postings on Indeed for software development, data science, marketing roles, those are all at least 20% below the pre-pandemic levels of job openings.
Can we talk about something there that
yes,
it struck me recently? What's the main thing that big tech is working on right now?
AI.
And in the places that like big tech is talking about using it, isn't it in those exact workers? So like, isn't there
software
this horrible
dev,
thing where
data
like
science and marketing rules? Yeah.
Isn't there a horrible thing where the company that you're working for is building your extinction?
Yeah, it's not fun.
Right? Like, isn't that just like wild?
Yeah.
Not like outsourcing, but like, no, we're building things that can, write stuff for marketing, handle data science, and, like they're building their replacement.
They are. Yeah. And
what if those jobs don't come back?
Well, that's the entire promise of artificial intelligence.
I know, but what if this is like the cutting edge of what we're seeing here? And what does it mean over the next decade? I'm not saying that will be the case, but
I refuse to believe that, definitively at least, that what we are seeing here is purely the effect of artificial intelligence yet. Again, evidence starts to stack up, and it's still early on, but it very well could be. The overall hiring rate in the information industry generally, it's 30% below the pandemic. Finance hiring, 28% below the pandemic. That's an area in finance, at least, where I have a tougher time drawing the AI line.
I don't know what falls into that category, because like
investment banking would. I'm sure corporate finance roles at most companies, accounting roles at most companies would account there. So I believe that it might be happening in areas like investment banking to some degree. But generally speaking, from what I have heard, if you are a large bank or financial institution, your approach to the use of artificial intelligence is very conservative and slow right now.
I guess I'm wondering more, finance, does that get wrapped up in like mortgage origination? Because if that does, then how much of that is just because rates are high and no one's refinancing right now? Yeah.
So where you have seen a lot of the job growth over the last 12 months, healthcare and government. That's where, on the government side, it's not as though the total number of employees have greatly expanded over the last 6 years. It's merely that those jobs could not be hired for during the crazy stages of COVID, when people were getting wage increases all over the place. Guess what? Government jobs were not getting big wage increases. They lost a lot of people. Healthcare, same story. Big catch-up period of time. A lot of nurses got burnt out and retired, or a lot of people just in the healthcare sector in general moved out during the last 5 years, and they're making up for lost time there. But at some point, you do make up for that lost time, and you cannot, I would assume that government jobs are not going to be the tide that lifts all boats for the next 3 years in terms of jobs.
You wouldn't expect it to be.
No.
You know,
nor would you really want it to be, if I'm being honest.
No. So I think the message on the job market that I continue to get is there's no signs of the bottom falling out, but there's also no real sign of improvement there either. I mean, it's just it's very messy and very slow.
Yep.
And I think people are generally hunkering down and saying, look, I'm comfortable where I am, and even if I'm not, I can't really find much else. And if you are looking for work, it's a slog right now.
Yeah. And
this is before we even get to, hey, you've started to see residential construction, numbers as far as units under construction dropping the last 6 months, but residential construction employment has not dropped off yet. That's a strange divergence that you don't normally see.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm trying to, also look at that and say, hey, there is another shoe that hasn't maybe dropped here, but I can't reconcile a lot of this right now. It's still just messy.